Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, brothers and sisters. You are listening to Z on Ramadan.fm. After 1 year, we are back here again in action, ready to talk to all of you, listen to you all, and follow your directions. Here, we listen and we act accordingly. So, our studio line is 0116 4822 and you can even send a WhatsApp message on 077 48855055. So we have an interesting guest today. Throughout till the end of Ramadan, we shall be talking to many different people from different walks of life, from different cultures, from different religions. So we are engaging with everybody throughout the month of Ramadan. And now we're almost at day 7, day 8. For some is 7, for some is 8. So how are you all doing with your Ramadan, your fasting, your adjustment? The body is just kicking in now. You are all now going through that change. The body is rejuvenating, cleansing. You're going through that period. So it's all for the good. That's where we are all having to be. So what has happened from the last Ramadan to the Ramadan right now? What has happened? There was an election and there were tables turned upside down during that election. A lot of changes, especially in the city of Leicester where we are right now. We had 2 MPs who lost their seats and 2 MPs who replaced them amid a lot of controversy, which I'm going to discuss here with my next guest here today, Mr. Rajan Nazran. How are you, Rajan?
I'm really good, Zed.
And we always say here, are you with me right now?
I'm with you right now.
You're focused, you're ready?
I am as switched on as a bell, so everything's good.
That's good. So you are talking to me in the beautiful city of Leicester.
Absolutely.
You know this city?
Do you know what? I know it through your eyes, Zed, because I think if there's ever been a very strong ambassador for Leicester, it's you.
Well, 2015. What happened here in 2015?
Tell me more, because now you're putting me on the spot here. 2015, what
Absolute,
happened in Leicester?
absolute. This is an easy one. Leicester won the Premier League, put us on the world map. And another time we were on the world map was in 1972. What happened in 1972?
Absolutely. Now I'm going to take a wild guess here. So it's not going to be Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. I'm not going to ask the audience, not going to phone a friend, but I'm going to go for 50-50. I think it is a Ugandan expulsion where you had a range of people like yourself that turned up in Leicester, all on the back of, for most people, of a back of an advertisement that went across Uganda telling people do not come to Leicester. If anything is a showcase of the power of advertising, I think that one position was. Am I right or?
Well, of course, you are absolutely spot on
Oh, look
because
at
you
that.
are a man in the know involved in journalism across the globe. So that's why you were absolutely spot on with that. And a lot of change has happened since then. The city is almost 50% ethnic from all over the world, from different parts, from Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan. We have the A to Z of different countries, nationalities, cultures, traditions here in the city. And in a typical school in the city, you can see up to 50 languages potentially being spoken. But English is what we've all grasped, and English is our home language here now. But in our homes, we sometimes are not even speaking our traditional languages, be it Somali or Indian or Pakistani or Bangladesh. We still speak English. That's why you're so good at it, Rajan.
I'm only second to you, Zed, but it's true. I think the way that we look at identity now in places across the UK is a really important question because it tells us, well, what does it now mean to be British? Or if you got listeners coming from the US, especially, what does it mean to be an American? And I think language is one particular part of it, but it's also the way in which we feel ourselves in a place. And I think Leicester's interesting for that because I know when we spoke off air, because it's had the dichotomy of the world. You've had people from across the planet coming in from different backgrounds, almost like the 50 Shades of Brown communities from India through to Afghanistan, through to Africa, so Uganda, Kenya, as well as those that come further afield. And so, if you really want to understand, in my mind, what it means to be British, I think Leicester's holds the key towards that because somehow it works. It's had problems in the past, absolutely, but there's something about the soul of the city that I think the world deserves to know more about.
Of course, before we allow you a passport to Leicester, you now need to introduce yourself in greater detail, a little bit like a CV. Tell us about yourself and where you were. I know you've traveled many countries across the globe doing the work that you do, and I commend you for that because some of the stories I hear are scary, like your crisis during Ebola time,
Yeah.
when places you've been to where you've been held as a hostage. That is quite scary. So
It's
tell us
been a
more.
it's been a remarkable journey. I'm privileged, I think, that we've been good friends now for many a year. And we end up meeting more outside of the UK than we do in the UK, which is always fun. So whether it's in the streets in Kampala or if it's in Dubai. But a brief background to me for your audience out there. I'm an explorer. So if you think about Indiana Jones, think about the Indiana part, but without the Jones. So I travel around the world. And what I predominantly do is have a look at the human experience behind our perceptions of identity in the countries that we now call home. So far, I've completed over 73 countries across the planet. As you rightly said, I've been held hostage before with my work, gone through Sierra Leone during the Ebola crisis, been through Cat 5 hurricanes, so the big human disasters. But along those journeys, it's given me an opportunity to start seeing the world as it is rather than how I am. And I think there's something really important with that. Because the moment we can start seeing the world through the united vision of what makes us human and ending the divisions that a lot of politicians normally put up for us, we get to actually enjoy what civilizations are. And so what I now do is through our platform, the Global India Network, is that we tackle the big conversations surrounding the planet. We have a look at the countries that the communities now call home, and we look at the opportunities to be found there. And our work is in podcasts, like yourself said, we do long form journalism, and now we're kicking off our documentary series as well. The most important aspect of our work is we look to change the world one conversation at a time, bringing together diverse voices, tackling the key issues at play, but doing it in a way that connects people rather than divides them.
Now that is what the spirit of Ramadan is all about, is to bring people together. It's a month of giving, month of reflection, and your good thoughts to be put into good actions. And during the month of Ramadan, we all have a awakening where we reflect upon all parts of the world where they are needy. What percentage of the world do you think is in dire need?
99% of the world, Zed.
99. Now that is a very high figure, right? Where there's deficiencies across the globe, across every aspect of our community life, about our work life. So we have issues today which we never had yesterday, and they're multiplying. So we say health is wealth, and during the month of Ramadan, we have to think of all those needy who are not even knowing where their next meal is coming from. They live on one meal a day.
Yeah. And I think it's even deeper than that. Sometimes there's issues in society that even bread cannot feed. And that's where we are at this moment in time. We're looking at divisions that are breaking the very fabric of society, and we're allowing it to happen. You traveled from anywhere from Ethiopia, or along those sides, through to Cambodia recently, as you know. And you can see the quiet eyes of desperation creeping into the young, into the youth.
Now,
That should be a fear for people at this moment in time.
that's just one country you've mentioned. We will talk about more countries later, but what I want everyone who's listening in right now to reflect upon, that we live in a society which is governed by caste, color, creed, culture, tradition, religion. Now, during this month of Ramadan, We have to put all that to one side. We have to learn how to hold hands, join together to make a better world and to make a difference. Every one of us has to say, I'm going to be mad. Are you mad, Rajan?
I'm absolutely crazy. I am mad.
I'm mad. Make a difference. Make a difference. That is the acronym MAD, M-A-D. And we have to think like that in order to make real change. Real change does not happen. It just does not grow on a tree. Your thought, your modulator, and your frequency, these all have to work together for the betterment of our human race.
And I like how you place it. It is a human race. You know, we are all one. At the end of the day, we may have our ideas of religion or ideas of skin color or anything else on there, but they're arbitrary factors to our humanness. The moment we stop thinking those lines and we start acting as a human race, we start looking at one another beyond the divisions that have been brought forward by society, then we have a chance of bringing fairness and equality back in. And these are the big issues that we're facing globally. The divisions that we're now seeing, they are incredibly deep. And one thing that I respect, obviously, for those that are going through Ramadan, is the fact that it's a chance not just to purge the body, but it's to purge the mind. And it's about fasting away from those negative thoughts, the thoughts of jealousy, the thoughts of division, the thoughts of exclusiveness, and to purge it and realize actually this is an opportunity to come back to what it really means to be a human being, co-inhabiting this planet with over another trillion other species is the most remarkable journey that we're going to have in our combined human experience. And I think it's an incredible opportunity for an entire month for people to go through that entire process.
And often I meet across the globe in my work the Carbon Footprint Society and Sustainability Society. And I often say to them, why don't we sustain human beings? If we don't sustain human beings, there won't be a world that you will be here around. We won't be here. There's nothing to sustain, and the carbon footprint will come to no avail at all. So our first and foremost intention should be to save humanity by not destroying humanity.
Absolutely. And I think there's a saying that you said earlier, and it's a remarkable saying, which is, be careful of your thoughts because your thoughts will become your words. Be careful of your words because your words will become your actions. And be careful of your actions because your actions will determine your life. And when we think about saving humanity, it really starts off with saying, what are the conversations that we're listening to, both internally to ourselves and externally, that can reshift the way that we focus on the world at large, whereby the problems in one country then become the problems of me, because we're all one united vessel as human beings. And I think the moment we can take up that step, where we can act without fear or favor, like a great example now, we're both two people, we've been very good friends for a long time. We have two different faiths that we follow, but it doesn't define our outlook experience. In fact, it reinforces it, because we realize actually there's a fragility in the way in which the world is at this moment in time, and we have to come together as human beings to make a difference. If we don't live a life of purpose, then I think we've actually lived lost lives in general, and that would be the worst thing that we could ever do.
So it's an absolute global message of peace to everybody here. From Ramadan.fm, you're listening to Zed and a wonderful guest, Mr. Rajan Nazran, who is a very renowned journalist who's traveled the world across the globe and has many, many different experiences and understands more than even I do the value of working together, living together, eating together, breaking fast together, and loving each other, appreciating each other for our own individual values, be it our characters, be it our religion, or be it our caste. The differences are enormous across the globe. You go to a country like India, how many languages in India are spoken?
So it's a good question. I think officially it's around about 56 that you
Of
have.
course, but there's many more.
Many
That's
more.
just one example. You can go to any African country and you will see so many tribes which are speaking different languages, different dialects, and it's the same everywhere you go. But what brings us together, what should bring us together is our common factor, our common denominator, which is our humanity.
Absolutely. And it's the same pen that writes all these languages if we get into that metaphysical point. It's the same pen that crafts humanity as a whole. It's the same pen at the end of it that makes us who we are, that we living, breathing atoms. And so to try and distinguish in this life between different faiths is as common sense as trying to take one drop out of the ocean and making a pond. We are all deeply connected, and I think that's the beauty of it. But Zed,
And
your own travels have been absolutely incredible because I think you're remarkably humble, but the work that you do globally as a change maker is something that I think the globe should look at more
yeah,
because you do things that are very silent, but they have a huge impact.
so when we do these things, we do them for our tomorrow. We are
Yeah.
not worried about uh, who has seen what you've done, or we're not doing it for that reason. Everything in this world is for meaning and for reason. If your meaning and your reason is wrong, you are going to have problems. But your meaning and reason has to be right. That's why we are here in this world. We're here for meaning and reason, working across the globe, wherever we are, to pass on your benefits that you have acquired. We have been fortunate, we are blessed, and we have to pass it on to other parts of the world who will never see what we have seen in our lives here, what we've carved out for ourselves in the UK. So I think many of us who are traveling, we appreciate that more than anybody else, Rajan.
Yeah, absolutely. You almost become a time traveler, don't you? Because it's not just about the physical things in these countries, it's the mental shifts that they're going through. There's a lot of things in the UK that we take for granted. The fact that we can have free speech at times. The fact that we can actually call upon the police at times and they're going to do their role. There's other countries that you go to where there's absolute fear. The wrong word, the wrong look can get you imprisoned. Ideas that challenge and change society can imprison people.
Of course,
And that's the world in which we live.
fear is a tool of rule across the
Absolutely.
globe. Fear is used in every element of our society, right? We wake up in the morning, we do this, we do that, we don't do that, we don't do that, because fear is built into our everyday life. So there are do's and don'ts. Now, we, I'm a small, very, very small fish in the pond in terms of media. You are doing much more media work than I am, but we try to be balanced, we try to be honest, and media bias is what I see every day. And it kind of switches off people of media, and then they go look for other avenues for their news, because the
Yeah.
bias is just incredible. It's just incredible. It's beyond belief.
It should be, if it was categorized as a national emergency, it should have been that a couple of years ago. The thing is that the world in which we live is based upon the stories that we tell each other. That is the reality of it. And we place a great reliance on the integrity of those storytellers, especially those within the media fraternity, and it's more so in news. But the issue is when you have people who haven't traveled, when people that contain agenda-driven ideas, what they tend to do is push their bias upon the audience. And if you have an audience that haven't had exposure like yourself, that haven't been able to travel or meet with other communities or reshape their ideas of existence, well, do you know what? We create a very fractured, broken society. And conversations of absurdities create real world atrocities. And the media at this moment in time is an absurd circus. And we should all bow our heads in shame to say, enough is enough and change needs to happen.
Of course, and it filters throughout the communities to our politicians, to our members of parliament, our councillors, right across the board, the bias, it affects everybody. And bias is a very kind word, right? A liar is another word. You could create many words which create the problems ahead. Propaganda is a big, long word, but propaganda plays its part in every situation of conflict you will have seen across the globe. So media bias is something has to be talked about, it has to be called out, and we should not fear to call it out.
Yeah, and I think it's also for you. Okay, so let me ask you this, Ed. It also comes down to the audience. Audiences will get what they want. Right now, my feeling is, and let me know your thoughts, I think the truth is a huge inconvenience to most people. What most people want, it seems, is entertainment. And that will be indicative of the information that they then receive. And here lies the problem. As societies, we no longer sit down and have those tough, important conversations.
Of course, everything controversial, it carries a lot of views. It's like almost a boxing match. You know, the
Yeah.
more punches you throw, the more the other opponent gets hurt. And this is how the bias takes you down that road where money takes over your school of thought. Money oversees, supersedes humanity, good humanity. Money can buy and
Yeah.
steer a point of view whichever way you want it to go. So that's what's happening for
We're
a
living in
long
that
time
world,
now.
Zed. It is, and I think we're living in the world where we've seen it across certain parts of the globe, right? Where I too must eat, but I must eat all. And we're now seeing that reflected in the politics that we're now seeing across the globe, but also in terms of how the media is. You know, the advancements of AI is one way absolutely fantastic and wonderful, but in the other, it should be absolutely scary. Because now you have algorithms that will tell organizations these are the stories that are trending, these are the demographics that we want to be approaching, these are the type of headlines that are going to draw their attention. This is just how sophisticated these tools now are.
Well, these tools are not going to be in my favor or your favor because we are talking,
Absolutely not.
we are being
It's
honest here, and we are talking the language of truth. And the truth, you know, the enemy of truth is injustice.
yeah.
And that's where we are heading now. And that takes me on to another subject, which is trending, certainly trending in my brain right now. And I'm going to give you a clue what that's going to be. Is like, it looks like one, it feels like one, and it walks like one. Somebody said those famous words. And what are they talking about?
I know we're not talking about a certain politician, so I'm going to leave that on the side, but I think
No,
we're talking about genocide, aren't we?
of course we are, yeah. Genocide, you know. I mean, people out there, they don't know what's the meaning of genocide, you know. So if you have a very short explanation, you can share with me and our audience listening in right now.
Oh, that you now you again you've got this habit of putting me on the spot, haven't you, Zed? I feel like you're the headmaster testing if I've done my homework or not. So how I would explain genocide in my own exposure of experiences is based upon a bias that we have towards a particular grouping of people where we not only single them out, but we also murder them based upon their beliefs, their ethnicity, or it could be in terms of their gender. Unfortunately, when we have a look at the word of genocide, the definition is constantly shifting across the globe. For some, we say that under those premise of the dictionary definition, well, this then should be seen as a genocide. But for others, we see it as riots. And this lies the problem because there's no one fixed definition that the globe agrees upon. Does that answer suffice your curious mind there, Zed?
Well, it opens up a lot of wounds, and it creates understanding. And you are almost 99% correct in the definition of genocide, where ethnic cleansing has been happening throughout years and years and maybe centuries. It's not something new. If you go, let's start, I wasn't around, but in the 60s, we had the Cambodia.
The
How many
Khmer
people?
Rouge,
How many people got killed?
a quarter of the population said within the space of 2 years. The killing fields are renowned for that, and all based because of a loose idea of communism that came in, and that's why it's called the Khmer Rouge. It came from France.
Mm. And that is something history has forgotten that we
It's
never talk about.
we don't, and that's the thing. So I was in Phnom Penh in December, and I met with the PM, met with the ministers, met with a whole range of people there, and a lot of these guys are still holding on to those wounds. I think Cambodia offers us a great example, a bit like Sierra Leone in a way of saying, how do you repair and how do you grow together, considering the depths of evil that took place? But in Cambodia, it was literally 1 in 4 Cambodians lost somebody. In some cases, they lost their entire families, and you have orphans that are there. And during this time that was taking place, the silence from the international community was deafening.
It
It,
always is the case. The international community, I cannot understand why they turn a blind eye. Every decade, almost, let me start off from the 40s onwards. Every decade almost there has been one mass genocide happening across the globe in any one particular country.
it's when you look at the Khmer Rouge, the whole issue was within my generation. We're looking at just over 40 years ago, Zed.
Yeah, but thereafter you can count.
Thereafter, we've had loads, and there's a plaque that you see in Phnom Penh when you go through the killing fields and you hear these stories and people relate them. And it says that we are not the only genocide that has taken place. And unfortunately, there'll be many more genocides that will happen. So what do we do to shift this? And it's a stark reminder because the same thing happened in places like Rwanda. The same thing happened in other countries across the globe. But yet, nothing changes.
That's right. And somebody sent a message saying too much money can also cause greed and fuel corruption, creating any narrative. Of course, when we talked about Cambodia, there are many countries after that. We will talk about 1 million that were killed in Iraq. You will say history will ask itself, was it necessary for them to have died? Right? Was it necessary? Was it necessary for any of these genocides
No,
in our history in the last 50, 60 years?
it's
I have no answer for that.
do you know what that statement that was made about money? I think that what it is, what I've noticed, it's fear that drives people. It either drives them towards something that they're running for, or it drives them away from something. But fear is a thing we need to eradicate within society at this moment in time. And in order to eradicate fear, we actually have to go back to the most simplest common sense thing,
So
and that's
we
talking.
say, again, we remind everybody, fear is a tool of rule, and that has been prevalent right across the globe. Now, I'll take my hat off to those fearless journalists, I can name them forever, all day long, who have stood out, sacrificed their careers. They've been arrested, they have been constantly abused, attacked by others in the media, who have stood out, stood their ground for truth. And very quickly they get put aside because they are not following the narrative.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. So it's is the fact that we need to back those voices, the voices of reason. At this moment in time, Zed, where we now live in 2025, from everything that I've seen globally, this will be a breaking point in our human civilization because we have more tech than ever before. We have exposure to more screens than ever before. We have addiction levels to digital media more than ever before. And that means the stories in which society is hearing about themselves or sharing about the others is going to have a catastrophic effect. We saw what happened in Leicester. I remember You came on the podcast to talk about what happened in Leicester with the cricket match. And you came alongside another very known journalist like yourself who said, well, the majority of the comments made around this came from outside of the UK. And it sparked off riots within the UK. It shows you the power that we have, one, as an interconnected world, but also the power that when we don't ask open questions and we don't request deeper insights into comments that are being made by our selected ambassadors or the people that we think are influencers, it means that we can go down a rabbit hole of social decay a lot quicker than ever before. Mark my words, I think this year is going to be one of the most vital years that's going to show us what humanity is made out of or what we're not made out of.
Of course, now we'll move on to solutions now, but we will close that particular topic on genocide because it is one, it's very clear, it was termed by one particular journalist who said it looks like one, it feels like one, and walks like one. Everything else is just window dressing to change the narrative of genocide, killing of human beings, senseless killing. And now I want to put something here in the pot for a solution to all of this. Most of these killings are for land, for resource, for minerals, for gold, for oil, for anything which is all related to money. Money being the tool of rule. And this is mass killings are happening due to that. So if you have a solution, you're listening to Ramadan.fm 87.7, then please let us know. Let us share your thoughts also on this particular matter. You can send us a WhatsApp or a SMS on 077 488 55055. Attention to fine detail. Rajan, remember that number?
I've got it right there. 077 488 55055.
That's wonderful. Well done. So what is the solution now? We're talking now here in present day where one side is aided and abetted by a lot of different countries to support one side, which is then using all the firepower against another side which has no weapons. So in the late 60s, there was a situation called balance of power. You got one, I got one. That is called balance of power. That is layman's term to explain to you that in a business, when your competitor has got products which you don't have, you then have to go out and get tooled up to have the same armory what that competitor has in business, and then you're on equal footing and you compete with each other. You don't sit back. And again, in this situation, it's no different. A solution is that if everyone is got equal, then there's a balance of power and we live happily.
There is, but I think there's a deeper part to this. When you have a look at these issues, out of both, let's say, for example, it's country A, country B. Who benefits? Not country A or country B. Is those at the top of those countries that make it happen for them. And everybody else under that class are the ones that get injuries. They're the ones that suffer. And here lies the problem. What we're seeing when it comes to genocides is that we're becoming fodder for other people's thoughts. This is political power in most cases, and more so, the human life is just a social currency towards us. What we need to do more is have conversations that repair, that bring people together on our common humanness as families that are grieving. And importantly also is have the conversations globally, change the way that the media is to say never again. We always hear this after every war, never again, this will be the last one. But the moment we connect with each other as human beings, Zed, beyond the ideas of religion, beyond the ideas of faith, and even the make-believe ideas of caste and class, then I think we actually have a chance to make the world a better place.
Now, I'm a man of yesterday. My grandson sitting across in the studio is a man of tomorrow, right? And he's waving to me, looking at me because he hasn't seen me for some time. Now, have we learned anything from yesterday?
Yeah, we learned that we cannot learn.
Exactly. And we are here today. How are we going to make it better tomorrow?
What we've done with our platform, with the Global Indian Network, was we took on conversations and we've recorded it for future posterity. And we took on conversations intentionally with all echelons of society to talk about the human experience in which they find themselves. We've got heads of states, billionaires, through to nowheres, people on the street, people that have gone through drug addiction. What that means is that now, for the first time ever, we have a depository of human relatable experiences that go beyond the ideas of religion, class, or caste. That's how you start creating momentum, because those are the conversations that then start challenging legal systems, which we've done in the past. They're the conversations that start to get societies and communities to talk about the ails within themselves. Is reflective conversations that make a difference. Now, we're not the only ones doing this. You're doing the same thing with your radio show. The difference is between us, said in as groups, is that like you and I, what we place attention on is not the financial gain, but we pay attention upon the social impact that these conversations have. If we want to make a difference to the world, we need to push the finances on the side and we have to think of commercial benevolence. Our life is not stopping in the world of work and the life of our personal. It's the same life. That clock still turns around, which means that we have to have congruence in the world in which we live. Our deeds and our words have to marry in action. Therefore, everything that we do, from our fields of business through to our personal enjoyment, through to our hobbies, has to create societal benefit. It doesn't mean that we all become charity stewards tomorrow, because even charities have their problems, but it means that we have to have the social conduct of integrity to say we're not in this alone. That, in my mind, is how we start shifting, is a shifting of global thought. And it's possible. It's very, very possible. You look at countries around the world like Eritrea after the civil war, the whole world excommunicated them. Yet they still got 98% literacy. You still have female empowerment there. It may not be the best country in the world, but no country is. But it was able to do something from within. And that's why I think countries now have to start asking those deeper questions. What is national identity? What are we doing towards supporting one another, not just in this country, but across the globe? And how do we get there in a way that is meaningful? Is no longer about performative activism, is no longer about virtue signaling, but real change through conversation.
And real change is only going to happen with our real actions, our good
Absolutely.
actions. We can create change across the globe. And these conversations we've had today have to be had by everybody, everywhere,
It,
collectively.
it has to be
That is the
inclusive.
spirit of Ramadan, that during this month, let us all strive to make discussions with our neighbors, with our friends, with our anybody and everybody really from different faiths. Let them all be reminded about the virtues of Ramadan, why we are here, what's the reason, what's the meaning of our existence on this planet. So,
Absolutely. And purging your mind, right? That's where it starts from. You're purging your body, you're going through that whole process. But it's purging the mind of social conditioning and the ills in society and asking yourself deep reflective questions. And that every time we meet, that's what you do. You always talk about the deeper aspects of life.
yeah, you see some messages, they go down the people are very upset at the moment across the globe. They bring on the politics on the table, and often you see the world will contradict their policies and their stances every time. This is a very clear message that the world contradicts their policies and stances every time. One of the text messages that we've just received, and many people, they're very, very opinionated, and many are very angry, and many are saying, if I ignore it, it'll go away. It simply does not go
It
away.
does not. And you have every right to be angry. It's within our human emotion. But being angry and doing something with that anger and turning it into change is what matters. Right now, if you look across the globe, there are more people that are not in power than those in power. There's more people in the UK as citizens than those sitting in parliament. That means collectively we have a chance if we come together to say this is what's right and not in our name as Britain, or likewise in the US, not in our name as Americans. But this is why the media has to stand as a sentinel of change. It has to be the last bastion of hope. Now,
Of
with what
course,
we do,
I'm going to just cut you there, excuse me, because we are running short of time. And we're talking about solutions where we're saying equality is the way forward. Equality in your business, equality in your politics, equality in your community, equality everywhere. It brings a balance. Without equality, the seesaw, the pendulum, is not going to work in one person's favor. Now, also, imminent change is on the way with AI. On another day, we shall talk about this in greater detail with practical examples where AI can make a difference even to this current situation, where AI will tell you within seconds what wrong you're doing.
I'm looking forward to that conversation, Zed, because I think on some occasions we sit on the same table when it comes to AI, and other times we're on opposing views. AI is based upon what we program it to do. Do we then believe AI can have a
So what
bias?
you've just talked about was actual intelligence. We are the creation. God, Allah, is the creator. We talked about this before. We are the creator. So creation, we are the ones who have the actual intelligence. Then
What do you class as intelligence, Zed?
it's how long is a piece of string is when you ask me that question. What do you class as intelligence? And then from that intelligence, we have created the artificial intelligence. From that artificial intelligence, it is going to give you a solution to 90% of our daily lives,
Absolutely.
including our politics.
Absolutely, I agree. I know you're entering to the world of AI governance, and we've had this conversation before, and I think that there's merit to that. If we get rid of the word artificial, just for example, and humor me, if we say that we have created intelligence that is beyond our scope as individuals, so now is no longer about the individual merit, but now it's saying it's beyond our understanding. We have intelligence, and it's not artificial, it's real. That should paint the picture better for people. We can tap into knowledge that is collectively as collective wisdom across the world, but it's still controlled by what the inputs are.
Of course,
If those inputs aren't correct, we can be living ourselves in a dystopia sooner rather than later.
I will now move on. We are coming to a closure, and I'd like to thank you very much for your input today. Look, time just passes by so quick, 50 minutes, and we haven't even started yet, right?
Absolutely.
Just getting warmed up. So we're going to catch up with you again next week on Wednesday with Real Talk with Zed, Radio with Zed, and we'll have another guest, inspiring guest, who will also share thoughts with us. And then in the meantime, from all of us here at Radio Ramadan, we'd like to thank Rajan Nazran, and we look forward to seeing you in Leicester very soon.
I'm looking forward to it. And Zed, do you know what? Again, I think the work you do, you're a sentinel within a community that speaks the truth.
So
That is
you
a
come
rare
and join
find.
us for iftar, and we shall share with many other good people here in the community, and
I look
spend
forward to
some
it.
time with us, and maybe come in here, do some presenting at Ramadan FM.
It will be my absolute honor. And it actually shows, I think this is the spirit of Ramadan, is that this is about multiple faiths coming together for the goodness within society. There's nothing better than that. And I think that shows us what Britain actually has in itself.
Great. I'll look forward to that sooner than later. We have about 20 days left of Ramadan 2021. So please make some time. Come and spend an afternoon with me, and then we can have iftar and share some thoughts together with the people of Leicester and all of you listening across the globe right now. So thank you very much. So brother and sister, you'll be later on listening to the iftar show and tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday, be the charity zone. Thank you very much. Jazakallah khair.